Bear, you had it right down to the last lap on Sunday.
The last half a lap. Stay on the inside,
what
Maddie.
happened?
Stay on the inside. No, he said there's a million things he could have done differently, but if he didn't win, I was rooting for Truex Jr. He didn't win, so it was Denny Hamlin, who our boy Dave Vaughn tells us is a pretty good egg, so I guess I'm okay with him winning.
If you missed it, Bear last week had Matt Kenseth winning the whole dang thing on the Daytona 500.
Who'd you have, Junior?
Yeah, that went well.
Yeah, how'd that go on the little Junior crash without anybody hitting him?
Well, hey, here's the thing. At least I didn't come. I almost would rather not come down the last lap. At least I knew like 5 minutes into the race that I had no chance. So
oh, that is good.
You had to watch the whole thing just to know
you
were
wrong. It
wrong.
was entertaining. It was, I'm not a huge fan, but I always watch the Daytona, and it was entertaining. And boy, when you get the closest finish ever, not much more you can ask for if you're a racing fan.
I didn't watch a single lap.
No?
No.
Okay.
But
well,
maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
We got some high school business to attend to today.
We do.
Mostly we'll probably stay on that, but I see you got your Badger sweatshirt. So
I do, yep.
We'll discuss the Illinois comeback situation. All that and more coming up on this episode of Extra Points. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Extra Points. John Barry here in the Badger sweatshirt. This is Miniature Junior Bridgman along for the ride, and I'm Eric Schmoldt, sports editor of the Gazette, and we all get together here and Junior does most of the talking, but sometimes we chime in here.
You know how rich Junior Bridgman is?
No.
He owns about 1,000 franchises, food franchises. I won't divulge which one it is, but he's a rich man.
Which one is it?
I don't remember.
Oh, well, that's why you're not going to divulge it then.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
But I know he's rich because he was originally thinking about buying the Bucks when Herb was selling them. So,
Junior, do you want to tell us which ones you own?
Junior, what do you own?
No,
I don't want to say anything.
Doesn't
Leave
want
me
to.
alone.
All right. It's crazy high school week here. This week and next week, probably the two busiest weeks.
Yep.
Maybe of just the entire calendar year, regardless of which season it is. But we talked quite a bit about hockey and girls basketball last week, and we'll talk a little bit more about it here in a second. But we should get to the boys basketball brackets that came out over the weekend, and maybe just start right in Division One, or do you want to start with three?
No, you can start with Division One because I think when you look at that Sun Prairie sectional, it's wide open. I would say it's much more open than the girls. I think with the girls, we all figured it was Middleton, Craig, and Verona, and those three, and we'd be surprised if anybody else was in there. But I think when you look at the boys, much more wide open. A tough bracket for the two Janesville schools. Parker's got to start with a play-in game against Madison La Follette, and then if they do win that, they got to go to Sun Prairie, and obviously Sun Prairie is the one seed. It's going to be a tough draw. And the same with the Cougars. Cougars open at home against Verona, against, I would say two pretty evenly matched teams. And the winner of that game is going to probably have to go to Sun Prairie. So a tough draw for the Janesville teams. But, hey, Craig proved last year that, again, it really doesn't matter what you did during the regular season as they went into Muskego and beat the top-seeded team last year. So I think Division One in our area is a wide open bracket, and if you had to tell me who I think is going to win it, I guess on experience I'd go with Madison Memorial, but if you're going by how teams are playing right now, I'd probably favor the Cardinals, Sun Prairie.
Parker and La Follette, that game's next Tuesday, March 1st at 7. Everybody else plays Friday at 7, that March 4th. Yeah, like you said, I think Craig's kind of a sleeper team in this bracket. I don't think that's a team you really want to play.
No.
Because if they're just kind of so hot and cold, and if you catch them on that night where everything's kind of clicking for them, you're going to be in trouble.
Yep, I agree.
So that it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they won at Verona. I think they swept the season from Verona, so now they're going to try to beat them for a third time, which is always interesting. But if they come together at the right time and play like we have and like they have in some of the halves. I think of the second half at Verona was probably their biggest one, but they've had a couple halves where you're just like, wow, this is the team we maybe expected, and they just have to catch that at the right time.
And Mike Miller talked about it. He said, we've got to find an identity, and I don't think they've found it yet. He doesn't, they can't decide whether they want to go big, whether they want to go small, or what exactly is the best fit for them, and until they do that, until they can iron that out, it's probably going to be a struggle, and they've not played well the last, 3-4 games at all, and I think Mike could be the first one to tell you that.
They get one more game this week here to close out the regular season, and then tournament next week. Division 2, I find Delavan Darien to be an interesting team there in Division 2. They're the 5th seed, so they don't have a great road, but that's a team, they hit 17 threes Monday night. I mean, if they get hot from outside, you don't never know how long.
When I think was Stosha's the 1 seed there,
and they beat them. They were one of the few teams, one of the 2 teams in the Lakes.
Anytime you're in a bracket with a 1 seed and you've beaten them, you've at least got to have some kind of confidence going in because you know that you can play with anybody. And I would agree with you. If Bob Baton knows that team, if they're on and they're firing on all cylinders, it's going to be a track meet, and when you're making threes like they can, and Delevingne's going to be a tough out. Let's put it that way. I don't expect them to come out of that sectional and play at state, but I certainly think they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Probably will come down. I mean, you live by the 3 and you die by it.
Exactly.
We'll see yep. which one they do. And then Division III, as we mentioned a little bit. I mean, just like the girls Division III sectional around here. I mean, it's just completely stacked.
It's awful.
I mean, you've got Lake Mills the 1, East Troy the 2, Marshall the 3, Evansville the 4, which they went and beat East Troy last week, a huge win. Even Edgewood and Lakeside. I mean, those, and that's just to get to a sectional final.
Yeah. I mean, again, it comes down to who's hot and who's playing well. And I think you and I both agreed that we thought East Troy was playing really good basketball, and Evansville goes in there down 12 at half or 13, whatever it was, and really exposed them the second half and almost ran them out of their own gym. So, you just don't know. And once you get to postseason, a lot of times you think experience is going to play a factor. But, you get a team hot or a player hot, and, I would think the postseason maybe Brennan Banks' time, the fine junior point guard from Evansville. I mean, not that he hasn't had a good year, but this may be his chance to really shine and put that team on his shoulder and maybe take them places.
To me, I think Evansville has the best chance of any of our area teams to make it. And that's saying something coming out of, I mean, this is just loaded. I mean, you're also in this bracket, you're going to be lucky to win 2 games, let alone make it all the way through.
Yeah.
But I think just based on the brackets and what the teams have done, a lot of the players around this area on the boys' side, are the best ones are juniors. So we're looking at maybe a next year where a team can make a run. But to me, that Evansville team looks like the best odds to make a long run out of anybody.
Yep, I would agree. And with Rakowski, a senior, he's the one guy in the middle that, they're not going to have him next year. So if you are going to make that run with a big man, this is obviously for the Blue Devils the year to do that.
We talked about girls a little bit last week, but I thought maybe we'd go through and just say we got regionals this week. Obviously, we're shooting this on Tuesday. Some of the openers are tonight.
Yep.
Friday, Saturday are really the big games, regional semis and finals. Just who we think might make it through this weekend and be playing in sectionals next weekend.
Janesville Craig in Division I. I think the Cougars get through, and I think the Cougars get through rather easily. I don't see them being tested either game, Friday or Saturday.
Memorial, and then probably Kenosha-Tremper. Both games will be at home.
Yep, and certainly the Cougars play a much tougher schedule than Kenosha-Tremper does, and I would expect the Cougars to advance. Parker, I think they're probably done dancing on Saturday at Middleton. I know they played well up there last time, but
took them to overtime.
I just don't have a good feeling about that. I just think the Vikings have been too up and down the last month, and you're asking those young kids that they have, in a first big game like that on the road in tournament, that's asking an awful lot.
Although I will say, you never know, because they've been up and down. I don't think they're getting a lot of love, and maybe that'll light a bit of a fire underneath of them. And
you
right. Never know if Middleton. I would assume Middleton's not going to overlook them just because they're Parker, but. Kind of like the Craig boys team, like we just talked about. I mean, they have these games where you say, okay, you took Middleton to overtime, so you're playing with the best of the best in the state. And then you have games where, like, they lost to East at home, and now they've got to try to beat them again there.
You saw Craig girls last Saturday against Middleton, and you said the same thing. You looked up early, and the game was already in the 20s. It's going to come down to which team can get the other team to play at their level, or not at their level, but to play their type of game,
the
pace in that. And if it's the Vikings and it's a half-court game, it certainly helps their chances. But if it gets up into the 70s and 80s, the Vikings just don't have the depth or the firepower to play with Middleton that way. So, if the Vikings can establish something early, maybe get a lead and just milk clock, their chances are going to be much better.
Not sure we see anybody in Division II make it through the weekend.
No, probably not. But I would like to say that, the Melton girls at least have played well the last month. I mean, they played much better than they did earlier in the year, and maybe it's just coming down to getting familiar with Stacy Skemp and what she's got, and just, I think more than anything, maybe just finding an identity.
And then Division III, I would think we would like Whitewater to make it through. But
I mean, Whitewater to win state again, yep.
They're going to get tested the whole way, though, all the way through this sectional. Probably face a Big Fort or an Edgewood. on Saturday night, and that's not going to be any walkthrough. That's for sure. Broadhead probably going to have to face Marshall on the road Saturday night.
Got to shoot, and the Cardinals can fill it up with the best of them. With Mo and Pickle, there's 2 kids that can put the ball in the basket. But when I did a story on Kylie, she said we have to rebound, and we can't have an off night shooting. If we have that, we're in trouble. And I think that's even magnified once you get into the postseason, because you get on the road in an unfriendly environment and you fall behind early or shots aren't falling, and you kind of lived and died by that all year, it's tough to come back. So it's just plain and simple for Broadhead. They've got to be making shots from the outside.
I don't think the odds of this are high, but how fun would it be if we had like a Craig versus Parker sectional semifinal and a Whitewater Broadhead sectional semifinal on Thursday night next week?
It'd be great. And where would they play?
The Janesville teams would travel over to Kenosha.
They'd have to go somewhere to play.
That'd be fun. And then Whitewater and Broadhead right here at Craig, so that'd be fun.
That would be fun. And the same with the boys. If Parker and Craig got there, I don't think a sectional host can. If their team's in it, they can't host, right?
Well,
so they'd have to move.
If they played each other, that would be a regional final.
Oh, regional final.
That'd be
that's
Craig.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking, I guess if Craig could beat Sun Prairie and then turn around and play in a sectional semifinal at home, they'd have to move the site of that. But let's get there first.
You're getting pretty far ahead of yourself.
I'm just looking ahead for the Cougs, yeah.
It's like 2 shows from now, I think.
All right. Well, we never know.
We are taping this before the Tuesday night hockey games, so we'll have to wait and see. You'll have to follow along at GazetteExtra.com, and we'll let you know. The Bluebirds were playing Marquette Tuesday night, and if they win, they'd play a sectional final to go to state Saturday night.
Probably Waukesha, yep.
And the Rock County Fury girls team were alive Tuesday, going up to Onalaska. So
playing a team with a worse record than them on the road. So again, I don't understand.
Well,
and they didn't play during the regular season. So if you could explain to me how that seeding went, then you're a genius, because that makes absolutely no sense. So the team with a better record has to go on the road to play a team that they didn't play and has a worse record. That makes no sense.
You just never know at some of these seeding meetings.
I don't
but
get it.
If they win, they'd play Saturday night too.
Okay,
and,
all right. Best of luck to both of them.
We'll have to just follow along. Obviously, we haven't even got to these. Look, we got more brackets. I got like 20
We got
more
wrestling.
brackets
We got
here.
wrestling.
Brackets everywhere. State wrestling Thursday through Saturday up at the Kohl Center. Maybe we just go through. Let's start with the 2 Janesville qualifiers.
Okay.
Logan Murdy from Parker, 195 pounds. Congrats to him, certainly, for winning sectionals.
Yep.
I think all along he's kind of hovered in that 8 to 10 ranking range, and he didn't wrestle against anybody that was kind of in the upper tier, so we didn't know where he stood. And he kind of showed on Saturday when he got a second period pin in the sectional final
against the 5th-ranked kid from DeForest.
That he's the real deal.
He is a real deal. He just got a very, very bad draw. And I think if you look at Logan's bracket, his second match against a kid from Pewaukee who was a national freestyle champion last summer. So obviously that kid is very talented. I think he's undefeated. And, it's a case where if you drop that second round match, try to wrestle back, and I think you can finish as high as
third. You can still finish
third. So, there's goals. And I think anytime you get to state, your biggest goal, and I don't care what sport it is get to the podium. And the podium at state, is the top, I think it's the top 6. And, if you're into those top 6, that means you're wrestling on Saturday. And if you're wrestling on Saturday, you got a pretty good chance to medal.
Well, and I think he's wrestled against these top-tier guys in the summer. And maybe he has wrestled this Rashka. I don't think he's going to go into that scared by any means. So
no, not at all.
I don't. Would it be the biggest upset in wrestling history? I don't think so.
No.
So we'll just have to see. Obviously, you got to get through your first one. You don't want to look too far ahead. But
right.
Hopefully, maybe he makes a run. And if not, a podium spot would be pretty darn good.
It'd be great for a junior. And
first trip to state.
Yep.
And then the other Janesville qualifier from Craig, senior Aristide Serrano, finished second at sectionals at 160, and he is going up against Brock Bennett from Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, who is ranked third going in.
And defending state champ, I want to say, at 145. So a kid that's certainly, and he's got the Rapids, singlet on, which, they've been the dominant program for the last 25 years. Not so much this year, but certainly they've been the best wrestling program in the state. There's no question about that. So again, for Aristide, and Coach Mark Mullins talked about, he's got to just come out and wrestle to win and not wrestle to try not to lose. You just got to come out, and especially at state, you got nothing to lose. Just come out and do what you think is your best, and not worry about what your opponent's doing or what he's trying to dictate on the mat, and just go out and wrestle. And I think if Artistide does that, he's certainly as strong as anybody in his weight class. There's no question about that. I mean, he is a tank, and hopefully now that he's up there for the second time, he's learned a lesson, and that is just go out and wrestle your match.
And let's just go through some of the guys that might have the best chance around the area to win a state championship. And I think it starts at 106 in Division I with Dalton Shea.
Yep.
Dropped down from 113 for most of the year down to 106. And when you get a junior in with a lot of these guys that are freshmen and sophomores, you got to like the experience level, and he's ranked number 2 going in. I like his chances to get to a final.
I do too. And Dalton's a kid that's that Shea name. I went to school with the Shea twins, who were both state qualifiers, and he's carrying on the Shea tradition. And I agree with you. I think Dalton can make a nice long run at the state tournament.
Then we go to 113 Division I, Benji Peak from Elkhorn, and I think he really turned some heads this weekend when he beat Brandon Klein from Stoughton at sectionals. And now they bump him up to 4th going into here. And I mean, when you get a win like that, I got to think you got all the momentum going into state.
Yeah, I mean, we beat defending state champ, and he's, you really have nothing left to prove other than, I know I can beat the best, so I'll go up there and change nothing and try to come out of there with a gold medal.
Those probably the 2 best chances to make it to
I
final.
would say, yes. I would say
Division
both.
I, we've got the big guys.
Yep. Cole Micret at Lake Geneva Badger. But again, that's a very, very tough weight class.
And the class is kind of stacked weird. They don't seed, as we were kind of talking about before.
Don't like it.
So now we've got the top 8 guys in the recent Wisconsin online wrestling rankings that are kind of grouped together in these pods. So like only one of these, when you get down to the final 4, you're going to have just 2 of the top 8 in it.
Right. I mean, if you're 40-0 and I'm 39-1, we shouldn't be wrestling in the second round if we were both sectional champs. Now, if my first loss came at the sectionals and I finished second, that's different. But if you and I are both, undefeated or with 1 loss, I think those 2 should meet in the finals, or at least set it up so they could meet in the finals. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about 225-pound class, the Sampson kid from Waconomowoc having to wrestle the defending champ from Menominee in round 2. And it's too bad because, those might be the 2 best wrestlers in that entire weight class, and they'll meet in the second round.
At 285, it's going to be really interesting.
It's going to be
to see how that breaks down. We'll see if you make it through those first 2 matches, then you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than Saturday night finals at the Kohl Center. I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, if you get a chance to get up there, I mean, they turn the lights down, the kids come out on the mat, they get the introduction of the champions, and it's good stuff.
Shout out Division III 106, a guy you've been following all year.
My boy Jackson.
Jackson Howery from Parkview, a freshman. Won his sectional, gets a bye. So he's, you only got to win 3 matches.
That's right. Only a freshman.
Yeah, and his brother, I think it was 3 years ago, was runner-up.
Yep.
We talked about Chase Katzenmeyer a lot throughout the year. Division II 126. Was undefeated for most of the year. Now he goes in with 3 losses, so he's going to have to kind of wrestle his way
Ran into
through
the River Valley
kid
that beat him close. 2 close matches beat him.
Now he wouldn't run into him again until the final. That's the good news. But now he's got to kind of weave his way through the bracket a little bit more. I would still give him a good chance. I mean, he's a tough kid. Maybe the best shot of anybody in the area to win it all. It might be Nolan Kismol from 132 from Evansville, Albany. Just a sophomore, his first trip to state, but he's wrestled on the big stage in the summer before. I would give him a shot. He's 39-3,
and he's been in domination mode the last month. I mean, he's just pounded everybody.
Jordan Meyer, the other one from Evansville, Albany, been there, done that. He was second 2 years ago.
Yep.
And 40-1, ranked number 2. I mean, his 4th trip to state, you just don't. That doesn't happen. I mean,
and the thing about state is, in Division I, you don't see a lot of those kids. In Division II, you especially don't see a lot of those kids because, you get somebody up from the Cumberland area or somebody up in Hayward, and you're not going to see them during the year, and that's when records are a little bit deceiving. But for the most part, I would agree. I would think Kismol, Jordan Meyer, and Reinhardt are all, certainly
contenders,
capable of making.
And Meyer, he went to state last year and didn't do very well. And I think that's probably eaten at him.
That's probably motivated him. Yep.
And I think he's going to be pretty hungry going in.
Yep.
And then, like you said, Reinhardt at 195 gets a bye. He's 39-2. Probably going to run into undefeated August Poplinski in the semis, though. So that will be an interesting match.
That will be.
Those are kind
That's
of
about it.
Yeah, 20 area qualifiers.
That's awesome. That is great, and I would expect. I would say we'll have 6 or 7 that find the podium. Yep.
It would be. Yeah, I mean, a third of them. That'd be great.
I would think so.
And hopefully we get a champ or 2 out of the whole mix.
That would even be better. Yep.
Speaking of the Kohl Center, the Badgers got a win there Sunday night, but man, they had to wake up a little bit in the last 10 minutes to do it.
First half was awful. Quit shooting threes. Get the ball inside the half. What happened every time they got the ball inside the half? He scored or got fouled. I mean, and just I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out, hey, look, go back to the basics if you're not making shots. They knocked down a couple the second half finally, but that's because they were able to drive and get to the baseline and kick out, and they were a different team the second half. The last 10 minutes they were dynamite. Illinois couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, and the better team won, but that would have been
It's a good thing they woke up because that would have
been a bad loss for the NCAA
maybe.
tournament. Yeah, you're right.
Well, now they got Iowa this week on the road on Thursday, and to me, if they win this one, the way Iowa's been playing, I mean, I think that makes them a lock for the tournament, and now we don't even have to worry about the Big Ten tournament or anything like that, because that would be just a huge win, and it would boost their RPI.
So if they go 2-2, let's say they lose at Iowa, lose at Purdue, beat Michigan, and beat Minnesota,
I still feel pretty comfortable, but I'd like them
19-9. Is that right?
It sounds right. 19 wins,
and they're right now in the Big Ten. They're 9-5, so they'd be 11-7 in the Big Ten.
I would like their chances, but you would want them to win one game in the Big Ten,
just
to finish it off.
I agree.
Get to 20.
20 is kind of the benchmark.
Just beat Utah and the Hawkeyes this week, and just let's not worry.
And
about
they can. They don't scare me.
They've had some weird games lately.
They have, and they lost to
the Big Ten's been weird lately, and just some of the teams
Maryland loses to Minnesota, and just Penn State beats Iowa. Just some weird stuff going on, and it's that time of the year where things are going to happen, but. I just want the Badgers to continue playing, like they did the second half and get in the tournament and see what can happen, and you never know.
Anything else big going on the rest of this week?
I don't think so, no.
Is there a big race this week, Vaughn?
Atlanta, right?
Yeah. So no. The answer to that is no.
No. Well,
not big enough for you and I to make any sort of crazy racing predictions this week. No, I don't want to.
No. Or Joey Logano. I'm not saying him either.
We'll keep filling these brackets in and let you know what they're looking like next week. We'll break down the boys tournaments a little bit more as they get started next week. You can let us know what you think of the show by finding us on iTunes and leaving us a comment on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook.
One final shout out to the Janesville Gymnasts, who will compete in the Waukesha sectional on Thursday.
Oh boy!
It's Murder's Row because it's all the co-op teams from the Wisconsin or from the Milwaukee area, but certainly we wish those girls the best. If you can get through, they're not going to get through as a team, but if we can get a couple of kids through to state individually, that'd be super.
That would be good.
Yep.
You can follow along. We'll be updating on Twitter all week too, and you can find our email addresses and Twitter accounts at GazetteXtra.com/Xtra Points. Thanks to Andy Ryder and Dave Von Falkenstein. Not Steen. Good. Got it right at the first one. For producing the show, shout out to Andrew Ryder. If it is his last show, we've appreciated all his help. Thanks to Kevin McLeod for the music and to Junior Bridgman for being along for the ride.
JB.
And we'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Go Badgers.